Hello, everyone. This is Lincia on Do What You Love series. On today's episode, I have the Representative Harold Love Jr. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for the chance to be interviewed.
Yes, I can't believe you're here. Like, this is a
Sure.
big deal.
State Capitol.
Yes.
Yes.
So, thank you. Have you always wanted to be in politics?
Well, I tell folks that I really was sort of literally born into it.
Right.
My mother was pregnant with me in 1972. My father was running for reelection. And it was literally in the heat of the election. I was born a month after, in December. And so I found myself kind of being born into that, but also when my father was in office, I would come down here after middle school and high school days. And I really learned a lot from him about how government could be done right, could be done good, benefit people. And so it's at that moment I really got a taste for politics because sometimes people see it as a negative thing and something that is not desired, but I saw it done right. So after that, in college, I looked at a major of economics and finance, minor in political science, and had long conversations with my father about whether I should go into politics or not. His response was that I should really wait and see if the people, the community, called me into it. And so that's how I ended up here.
Did you think it was a calling once your father said, okay, well, wait, maybe you want the people to want you?
Yeah.
So, was like a whisper in your ear? Was it a calling?
Yeah.
How did that fall apart?
And to his point, he didn't want me to just go into politics and not go for the right reasons. And so I tell folks that may not know, I lost my first three elections. And it was very difficult because of several reasons. One, because of my father's experience and the expectation that after years of internships and grooming and work with him, it should have been a natural progression. But I ended up actually being grateful for those three losses because after each loss, I improved upon my presentation to the community. I improved upon my work in the community. And then it happened at a certain point. People came to me and said, listen, we've watched you and we've observed how you have matured over the years. And now we'd like for you to run for office. We'll get behind you with more support and we'll elect you. And that was really beneficial to have that time period to wait.
Right. So I'm reading this book called The Pivot Year.
Uh-huh.
And in the book, it talks about resilient people are built. So, of course, you came to mind when reading that line, and you talked about your three losses. Can you talk about those delays, those setbacks more in detail and how that affected you as a
Yes.
person?
There was a bit of a conflict within me about whether I should pursue ministry or pursue elected office because I saw them as not being the same thing or not even being close. And I was in seminary and graduated and was in the process of getting assigned to my first church. But I had this desire to run for office and desire to serve because again, keep in mind, watching my father for those many years, it built in me this desire to serve. It wasn't about having the title. It wasn't about having folks recognize me as Representative Love, but it was about doing the work. But I had to call to ministry. And I went into the call to ministry, got my first assigned church, lost my first election. Was in much prayer about it to say, well, Lord, what would you have me to do? And I felt like I should run again. Ran again and lost. I said, man, this thing, man, I'd be working out for me the way I wanted to. So then I began to ask myself the question of, maybe I should wait a while and not pursue this particular office, but give it a few years. But ran again, lost, this time by 17 votes. At this point, you really ask yourself the question of, okay, now really, Lord, what's going on here? For those who may be familiar with the story of Gideon about how he put the fleece on the ground and prayed and asked the Lord to let the ground be wet and the fleece be dry if he could understand God's intentions. That's kind of what I was going through. Like, Lord, look, give me a sign. Let me know. Tell me something, God. And so one of the things that I really focused on was then my ministry. And I said I was going to focus on that and got assigned to a church in Columbia, Tennessee. In '99, got assigned to Hopewell AME Church in Tennessee, Columbia, Tennessee. And in 2002, got assigned to St. Paul AME on West Hamilton here in Nashville, and really began to invest myself in the community and do work around that. And I had let go of any desires to run for office. until 2007 came.
Okay.
So that was my third run. At this point, I was like, you know what? I'm done. Maybe I should go into maybe doing some lobbying. Maybe I should be an advocate in that realm, because at that point, I could still influence policy. And something terrible happened to our city around 2010. The floods hit. And my church was right above the area that was very flooded. And I found ourselves at the church being able to be a relief site for those who were flooded out. We provided space for them to meet with government officials about their telephone connections, because at that time they were offering free wireless phones, people who had lost their phones. Also to connect with FEMA about applying for grants. And in that moment, I was doing what I wanted to do. And it was out of that, I think, that people said, listen, we saw you and we saw how you did with the flood, the work you gave and the commitment you made. And that's when they came and said, you should consider running for office again.
So how did you find your voice? How did you find your confidence?
Well, I'll tell you, one thing that helped me tremendously was the community supporting me. When I ran for office, I ran on improving education, expanding opportunities for folks economically, and also bringing reform to our criminal legal system. I found my voice in those areas, I think primarily because with education, my mother, who worked at Tennessee State at that time, was still working. She had been there at that time 47 years with one program called Upward Bound, and then teaching 10 years in mathematics, so a total of 57 years. I found my voice in that because she emphasized to me the importance of Upward Bound and helping first-generation students who were going to college, which meant that education became the thing that I really drilled down into. Also, I had 4 universities in my district at Tennessee State, Fisk University, Meharry Medical College. That really allowed me to drill down. Trevecca Nazarene was also in my district, and at that time, the Watkins College of Art was in my district. So 4 HBCUs, TSU, Fisk, Meharry American Baptist College, and 2 non-HBCUs really introduced me to the higher ed conversation about tuition, about need to provide more tools for children to be retained in school and not drop out. And that helped me find my voice in education. Around economic development, I saw how my district, North Nashville area, was not benefiting from the economic development that the city was being given. So I found my voice in that, also advocating for those developments.
So we're in Tennessee. We're in a conservative state,
Yeah,
Democrat.
yeah.
So how do you have hope,
Well, I'll say this. My father blessed me with how he navigated the waters. And by that I mean I watched how he worked. I watched how he found common ground. And so that became my approach legislatively. It became my approach to say to my colleagues that this is a good bill and talk to them about it, and not talk so much about the specific benefits to Black community, right? Or how it might help Democrats more. The approach always was, it's gonna help everybody. And if you vote for the legislation, it'll help everybody. And what I found was people were receptive to that. And slowly but surely, I became able to pass bills, enact legislation. I think also people saw me as a person who kept their word. If I told someone I was gonna vote for the bill, I did. If I wasn't, I told them I could not, told them why. There was an honest factor there. And I began to develop a reputation down here of an honest broker, someone who said to people, listen, I can't vote for your bill, here's why, or I can, and here's why. Over the years, I began to pass more legislation and became really blessed to be able to pass almost 30% of the bills that I've sponsored. So to your point, in a supermajority Southern state, as an African American, to be able to pass legislation, and I'll give you an example of what I really have been able to pass. It's a thing called the Property Tax Freeze Program in Tennessee, which allows persons who are 60 years and older, 62 years older, to have their property taxes frozen at a certain level. And doesn't matter what the increase around them is, their taxes stay the same, which is beneficial to folks staying in their homes. The problem was that the top amount you could receive in income was around $45,000 in Nashville. Some estimates are it takes about $80,000 to live in Nashville. So persons were not able to really get the property tax freeze program and were being pushed out of their homes. We were blessed to be able to sponsor legislation to increase that amount to $60,000 statewide. And so I had teachers come to me and say, thank you for that bill. You allowed me to freeze my property taxes and stay in my home. Another piece we talked about passing and got passed was a bill that increased opportunities for sickle cell persons with sickle cell disease to have better treatment programs, required the state to analyze what current treatments were. That bill we passed has now been passed in 31 other states because people heard about it, right, and adopted it. And so those are just examples of how we're able to impact the lives of people in Tennessee and nationwide. It's that kind of work, I think, that demonstrates that you can get things done in a supermajority southern state as an African American male and not compromise your values.
Thank you. I love that.
Sure.
So, okay, this is my last and final question. Do you love what you do?
I do. When you see somebody out on the street and they say, Representative Love, thank you. You made a phone call on behalf of my son and they were able to get into school, or you made a phone call on my behalf and I was able to get a situation resolved. That's what makes me love the work. It's not the pay. I tell folks now, we don't make, I think we make about $40,000 a year.
Right.
And that's not full-time pay. We do full-time work.
Right.
And so it's not about the pay. It's about the people that we're able to connect with and the work we're able to do. And with my pastoral work, it really becomes a cohesive journey because the work that I do at the church also is reflected in the work I do in the community. And legislatively, to be able to combine those two, to work on things like when the tornadoes hit in Nashville 2020, Representative Love and Pastor Love came together, right, to do the work to make sure our community was taken care of. When we had COVID-19 to hit our community, Representative Love and Pastor Love came together to make sure that we had a testing site at Lee Chapel, to make sure we had a place for vaccines to be received. It's that kind of work that I love to do.
Well, we thank you so much. Thank you.